smiles bright, or make someone's day with a lovely bouquet, businesses all have one thing in common: cash flow. And at American Express, we can help you with it. With our Gold Business Card, you could get up to 54 days interest-free credit, plus your first year's annual card fee on us, saving you £125. Giving you great service is our business. Search Amex Small Business. 54 days interest-free if you spend on day one of your statement period and pay off your balance in full when due. See website for terms.
Broadband. Broadband your business can bank on.
8:33 coming to you live from the Lib Dem conference in Glasgow. And let's go straight now to the Lib Dem leader and Deputy Prime Minister, Nick Clegg, who's with me at the LBC studio here. Mr. Clegg, welcome. Thank you for coming
This is not
on.
a studio. For your listeners, this is the Ferrari Towers. This is magnificent construction.
There's nothing left in IKEA of Glasgow, let me tell you.
Fantastic.
If we put another floor, we could have beds here.
It's great to be here.
Anyway, on to the meat of our interview,
Yes.
which is one journalist, Quentin Letts, who's gone to all three conferences.
That positive commentator of the Liberal Democrats.
His assessment of your party inside the conference hall, it reminds me, this is him, of boyhood trips to weekday afternoons at the old Regal Cinema in Cirencester, a handful of solitary sad souls sucking on revels. The melancholy is enough to make one want to stab oneself with a Kia Ora pouch's plastic straw. It's like being at a minor counties cricket match when the best the home team can hope for is a draw or coalition, to use the technical term. Do you recognise that picture of this conference?
No, but look, honestly, people like that, commentators like that are just famously known for their somewhat sort of pompous, humorless.
What do you see when you?
I actually tell you what I see in this party is a party that, yeah, sure, we're not sort of deaf to what the opinion polls are saying. We've had a tough time over the last few years, but we're incredibly proud of what we've achieved. I think there's a real sense of, wow, we've hung together, we've stuck with it when people said we wouldn't, we've stuck to our guns, we've delivered a whole bunch of things we only dreamed of in the past, whether it's fairer taxes, more apprenticeships, a massive increase in the state pension, whether it's free, healthy meals for little toddlers at school, whether it's better shared parental leave, whether it's protecting the environment. We've done a whole bunch of things we've only dreamed of. And now, if you look at the choice during this conference season, you've got a Labour Party that can't even bring itself to talk about the economy, yet alone accept its responsibility for the way it messed up on the economy. You've got the Conservative Party saying with barely disguised relish that they want to make the working age poor pick up the tab for the mistakes of the bankers and all the debts that we've racked up. And we're saying, hang on a minute, we can do much better than that as a country. We can create both a stronger economy and a fairer society, because that's the only way that you can do what we're in politics for, which is to spread opportunity for everyone. That's the basic message. And I have to say that the differences between the parties, the choices for the British people, I know people say, oh, all politicians are the same, all the rest of it. Actually, I think the choices which have emerged over this conference season are much starker and in many ways bigger than I'd anticipated.
Why is your party doing so poorly in the polls?
Well, do you know what? I think the
half
truth
of
is
UKIP's standing.
Well, I think the truth is that in those areas where we're not active, in other words, where we're not out in communities, we're not knocking on doors, we've particularly in some parts of the country, been knocked back really, really badly, and that gets picked up in the national opinion polls. I have to say the picture is very, very different in those areas where we've got MPs, councillors, and others, because candidly, we're not going to rely on people like Quentin Letts to get our message across. We've got to do it ourselves. We've got no vested interests who want to help us get our message across. We've got to do it ourselves. When we do that, when we tell people on the doorstep, you've got more money in your pocket because of us, your pension's better because of us, your youngsters can get on apprenticeships because of us, your school down the road is being funded better because of us, and we've got plans to do more of all of those things, then we do get a hearing. But look, we've got a fight of our lives on our hands. I understand that.
Are they up for it?
Yes, massive.
How can you tell?
Oh, I can tell. This is my 14th conference as party leader, and of course you can tell the mood of a conference. We had our kind of great get together, our rally on Saturday night, and that's always quite a good barometer. Actually, I found with experience about how a party's feeling. People are really up for it. They know we've got the fight of our lives. We know we've got lots of incoming fire from left and right, trying to kind of do us down. I've lost count of the number of times I've been told the end is nigh, apocalypse beckons, the Liberal Democrats will be wiped from. Every time we confound the critics, I'm totally sure we will confound the critics next May, but we can't do it, of course, without campaigning, fighting hard and standing up for what we believe in.
But even one person who used to work with your party, Mark Littlewood, says that you're like the Kodak party, which of course is a company that didn't stay in tune with changing times and filed for bankruptcy 2 years ago. He says the party is the political equivalent.
I think he's wrong. He's completely wrong. Look, what do people want in this country? I think there are two big things that people want. They want politicians to level with them about what is needed to sort out the economy, because they know that the long shadow from 2008 is still with us, that there's still a way to go to fill the black hole of the public finances. They want us to wipe the slate clean so that our kids and grandkids don't pick up the sort of price tag for us, but they also want us to do it with that good old British sense of fairness and fair play in mind as well. And I genuinely think, and in that sense, I'm grateful to Messrs Miliband and Osborne. I think, given what they've said over the last 2 weeks, the only party now that can legitimately say we fill that space are the Liberal Democrats.
How easy is it for you to criticise some of the government policies when you've been a prominent member of it?
Oh, it's very easy for me to criticise the announcements the Conservatives made last week, because it's not government policy.
But other things that have happened on your watch as Deputy Prime Minister?
No, what the main brunt of my criticism over the last few days has been squarely aimed at, I thought, this astonishing announcement from George Osborne, which says that compassionate conservatism is dead, that they're not going to ask the people with the broadest shoulders to make a single extra penny's worth of contribution to dealing with our deficits, that the only section of society that they're going to single out are the working age poor. That's what they want to do. I'm assuming that's what they would have done if we hadn't restrained them in government. Of course I'm very critical of that. That is a vision of the future which I think is unfair, unjust. I think it's un-British.
So you're going to tax the wealthy more?
I'm just saying that you've got to level with people. The idea that you can only balance the books on the backs of the poor, that you can only balance the books by gouging out great chunks, billions and billions of pounds worth of extra cuts from the police, from social care homes, from local schools. It's not going to happen, because no one's going to stand for it. So why don't we level with people and say what we've done over the last 4.5 years is, yes, a lot of spending reductions, but also some tax increases. And we will have to continue with that approach, broadly speaking, in my view, because it's the fairest way of going about things.
So taxing the rich helps the poor?
No, taxing the rich helps you to complete the job of balancing the books, but balancing it fairly.
And what is rich? What salary is rich?
Well, it's not just about salary, is it? Because you tax. Well, it isn't just actually about salary. One of the things that, as you know, we've said.
How do you judge then if it's not about
because you don't just tax salaries, do you? You also tax dividends. You also tax. I see. So what we're saying, for instance, is we are actually saying that the tax breaks that you have on your shares, for instance, should be more aligned with income tax. That is one of the tax changes, right? That's dividends. That's shares. We're saying that if you live in a property worth £2 million or more, you should be paying council tax bands just as much as anybody on lower priced properties. That's not just about your wage.
So this is the mansion tax. We're back on that.
Yeah, the so-called mansion. Yes,
I read somewhere that you were going off the idea of a mansion tax.
No.
You're still sold on that?
I am sold on the idea that if you have council tax applied in bands to people on lower priced properties, why on earth do we not have the same approach to higher priced properties?
And this comes in at what, 1.5 million property or 2?
No, we think it'll raise about 1.5 billion. If
yes,
that's what you're referring to. About 2 million and above. So at the moment, you've got this astonishing situation where a family home in Lewisham, let's say, I don't know, £700,000 home, will pay the same council tax as a Russian oligarch's £10 million mansion.
But what about people living on fixed income, retired, I don't know, perhaps in their 60s or 70s, living in Kew in a house worth 2.5 million? Where are they meant to find this extra money?
So they don't need to pay it up.
They don't?
Up front. They can pay it as part of their estate. So you can.
What, when they die?
Yes, of course. It's perfectly
so you're
right.
going to tax them when they're dead, these people?
No, look,
even more?
If someone has lived, I have a lot of sympathy with someone who said, "Hang on a minute, I bought my house 30 years ago. I don't have a big income, but I'm now a multi-millionaire in terms of my property."
He bought the house when it was very, very cheap. She.
Yes.
They've benefited from property
and they will
prices
benefit.
soaring in Kew or
Yes.
Putney or whatever it might be.
Yes.
They're on fixed income. They get a little dividend.
Yes.
They live on their whatever it might be. 2.5
We're not going to stop them. We're not going to stop them continuing just like that.
When they're dead and they want to pass it to their children, presumably they've got to pay it.
No, all we're saying is that the council tax due in the council tax bands that we would introduce would be due. That's normal. I think everyone accepts you have to pay the council. What I think you have to answer for people who don't want to do this, and this is another extraordinary example, by the way, the Conservatives have said to me they don't want to ask Russian oligarchs in £10 billion houses to pay an extra single penny in contributions towards dealing with the deficit. They don't want to ask, I know Alan Sugar gets very upset, so I won't cite him, but I have in the past, people like Alan Sugar, should we say that this time? They don't want to ask, very wealthy retired pensioners to give up their TV licences or their winter fuel payments to help younger people who are trying to get a job. But they will ask the working age poor to cough up more money. And that's what I think is disingenuous about their position, because we've always funded our fair tax cuts, the point, by raising the point at which you start paying income tax, by asking the wealthiest in society to make a contribution. The Conservatives are now saying that if they were in government on their own, they'd give with one hand and take with the other.
Where are you? Lastly, on the we've talked about the Manchester tax, spare room subsidy or bedroom tax. Yes or no? Where are you on that?
Yes, but not applied to those people who simply can't move to a smaller downside.
So you changed your opinion on that then?
No, what we've said is we looked at the evidence. We commissioned a report. Ian Duncan Smith commissioned a report. The report said really clearly, look, the principle of this is fine, but don't apply it to people who've said they want to downsize but can't. I don't know what you do in life when the evidence says that you should adapt your plans. I adapt my plans. I don't just carry on doing something which is clearly not working in practice as intended.
All right. Just lastly, we sparked a row last week when you gave us your views on Theresa May. It's subsequently been reported that someone in her office has described you as a word I can't use on the radio, but it rhymes with banker.
I don't know. Go on, what are you? I don't know what you're talking about.
You hadn't seen those headlines?
No, I'm joking. I'm trying to tempt you to
to
break some broadcasting rule.
I've been doing this long enough.
Yeah. By using a different consonant.
And you'll hear it chanted regularly at referees at football matches up and down the land.
I wouldn't know.
How did you respond to that?
Look, I can't possibly react to what some silly juvenile conservative, jumped up press officer says. I actually think this is a really, really serious issue. It's why I responded as seriously to you as I did. We've got to keep this country safe, and we will do whatever it takes to keep this country safe. And we've introduced a number of new measures, and we will introduce further new measures in the autumn and the winter. But we've got to do so by safeguarding, not sacrificing our traditions, our British traditions of liberty, of privacy, of civil liberties. And I think having a power in which the powers that be can sort of basically keep track of every single website you ever visit over a whole year. I just don't think that's either necessary.
Have you made up with Theresa May?
I've been somewhat busy, so has she.
But still not made up.
Look, it's not a question about making it. I'm not gonna hold back in saying when someone accuses.
Has she replied to your letter?
Not yet, but I'm
when
not going
did you send it?
Nick, I will. I'm sure I will get a full
That's the
reply.
Height of rudeness, isn't it?
I will get a full reply. You don't half stirred, do you? Really? I don't know what you were like at school. Were you
pretty much the same?
Pretty
much the same.
Really, always stirring the pot.
I was on detention
you
most of my school career.
You were like those people in the playground, going fight to other people.
Yeah. So she hasn't replied, and that's just rank rudeness, isn't it?
Listen, I think it is perfectly normal in government that you can be pretty blunt with each other where you feel someone's crossed the line. And of course she crossed the line in saying to her coalition partners, look, you're putting children at risk. It is not true. It is totally not true. It's not even true on the terms of the evidence that she presented in her speech. I'm entitled to say it's not right. I'm entitled equally to say let's have a sensible, grown-up, sober debate about how you strike the right balance between taking measures to keep us safe but also safeguarding our liberties.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. I know you have interviews. Great seeing you. Thank you for coming to this very modest
Ferrari Towers
record facility here on LBC. Listening to Deputy Prime Minister Nick Clegg on LBC, where news is next.